disappointing campaign, made all the more so considering they reached the AFC Championship game only the year before. Conversely, their host opponent that night, the New Orleans Saints, a perennial NFC weak sister that as yet had never experienced a winning season, well, the Saints were 6-5 entering the game. They were enjoying one of their most successful years, perhaps one that would culminate in their first ever playoff appearance. Hopes were high in the Creole City, for a Saints victory would tie them with the Rams and 49ers for first place in the NFC Western Division. But they would have to get by a Jets team whose subpar standing belied their actual talent and threatening posture.
The New York Jets' 1983 season could fittingly be remembered as a season of imprisonment, as injuries to key personnel confined the team to the cellar of the AFC's Eastern Division. On this November Monday, they were caged in the Cajun country as the Jets prepared to do battle with the up-and-coming New Orleans Saints. For Jet quarterback Richard Todd, the former #1 pick was winding down what would be his final year in a Jets uniform, an 8-year tenure that never quite reached its fullest measure of success due to his ill-fated penchant for the misguided pass, such as this one on Todd's first attempt of the game. Number 20, Russell Gary's interception and fumble was eventually recovered by a teammate and set up New Orleans deep in Jet territory. 3 plays later, the Saints' leading rusher, George Rogers, number 38, spun his way in for the early score. Another look at Rogers' 14-yard run reveals a key block by upback Hokie Gaijan, number 46, that cleared the scoring path. However, on the Saints' next possession, quarterback Ken Stabler learned in a costly fashion that turnabout is fair play. Number 56, linebacker Lance Mell's 34-yard interception return of Stabler's first pass tied the game at 7. Over the course of the game, Lance Mell would stand out like an orchid in a desert. He would register 17 tackles, a quarterback sack, and a fumble recovery. But Stabler and the Saint offense remained undaunted, as their ensuing possession would see them travel 80 yards in 9 plays, a drive that mixed the hard running of George Rogers with the soft hands of receivers like Jeff Grote, number 86. Soon thereafter, the early scoring marathon continued as Stabler hooked up with wide receiver Hobie Brenner, number 85. Trailing 14-7, it was now apparent, much to the Jets' dismay, that they would have their hands full with a well-balanced New Orleans offense. But what came as no surprise to New York, and Richard Todd in particular, was the ferocity of the Saints' pass rush, the NFL's #1 pass defense of 1983. Led by defensive end Reggie Lewis, number 98, and linebacker Ricky Jackson, number 57, the Saints harassed Todd all game, sacking him 3 times and limiting New York to only 54 passing yards in the first half. Another view of Jackson's sack of Todd shows the Pro Bowl linebacker blowing by overmatched fullback Marion Barber, number 31, en route to the quarterback. Surrounded by a fast-moving, high-pressure frontal system, it wasn't until late in the second quarter when Todd taxied the Jets from the tarmac to the runway. Forced to transform himself into a rollout quarterback, Todd connected with receivers like Derek Gaffney, number 81, and tight end Jerome Barkham, number 83. This 17-yard pass to number 85 wide receiver Wesley Walker keyed an 11-play drive that culminated on a 1-yard plunge by running back Marion Barber. Barber's only carry of the game enabled the Jets to keep pace with the upstart Saints 14-14 at the half. The Saints opened the second half much as they did the first. Stabler's 35-yard completion to wide receiver Lindsey Scott, number 80, contributed to the Jets' frustrations. Several plays later, running back Wayne Wilson compounded them. Voted the team's most valuable player in 1983, Wilson's touchdown capped a 12-play drive that set the tone for a third quarter that was all New Orleans. And if Wilson held back on his emphasis of that point, then running back Hokie Gaijan made sure it was pounded home on the Saints' very next offensive play. Gaijan's 58-yard dash highlighted his first 100-yard game as a pro, a run that had the Saints knocking on the Jets' front door. 2 plays later, George Rogers bolted through the side entrance. Rogers' second touchdown of the game gave New Orleans a 14-point lead entering the final period. Through the first 3 quarters of play, the Jets' defense had been run over, around, and through and successfully passed on, all to the tune of 401 yards, the Saints' biggest offensive output of 1983. But 3 quarters do not a football game make. In quarter number 4, the Jets transformed themselves into underground saboteurs and finally devised a way to derail this runaway Louisiana Express. First, they neutralized the engineer. Then they proceeded to destroy the wheels. Leahy field goal brought the Jets closer at 28-17. That set the stage for one of the most memorable comebacks in Monday night history. With approximately 5 minutes remaining, Todd looked for his favorite target, Wesley Walker. The game's top receiver with 7 receptions for 110 yards. Walker's timely reception keyed a late rally. 3 plays later, Todd located a wide-open target in number 80, Johnny Lamb Jones. Jones' 26-yard catch and run gave New York a first down at the Saints' 11. On the very next play, Todd looked to the end zone. Jerome Barkham's touchdown grab brought the Jets to within 4, 28-24. When the Jets' defense held on the Saints' ensuing possession, it gave them another chance to pull out a victory. But they wouldn't need the ball for long. Springs' electrifying 76-yard punt return climaxed a furious rally which saw the Jets score 14 points within 2 minutes to take a dramatic 31-28 lead. But Stabler and the Saints had a few more rounds of ammo left over from this shootout, and they used the final 2 minutes to drive into 3-point range. On a 3rd down and 6 with 19 seconds remaining, the call went to kicker Morton Anderson as he attempted a last-second game-tying 51-yard field goal. Patterson's attempt sailed wide left, sealing New York's comeback win and leaving New Orleans to suffer the stinging pain of defeat in a game they should have won. For the Jets, this was their most memorable moment in what was a very forgettable 7-9 season. But for New Orleans, this defeat was costly as their playoff hopes were dealt a major setback. They slipped a game behind in their division, never to recover before finishing 8-8. For yet another season, Bum Phillips' Saints not only fell short of the playoffs, but fell short of their first winning year as well.